What's up everybody, Scratch coming up with another Raid Shadow Legends video. In this video I want to share with you my top 10 best damage dealers, DPSers and debuffers for clan boss. Mainly we're talking about Unkillable team, so if you're running a 2-to-1 ratio team with like the Barrier, War Crusher, Dark Knight, you're running a simple team like Maneater and Painkeeper, the budget one, double Maneater, something with Sir Nicholas or Roche card, it doesn't really matter. I just want to give you that extra option of what champions you can use in those teams, because I'm hearing this question quite often. Can I replace Draco with Fane? Can I replace Fane with Pharaohkin the Fat, etc.? So I just want to make you the top 10 best champions that you can run in these teams. Now, do forgive me if I missed any of the champions. A couple of these champions that they seem to have pretty good potential on paper, they're not on the list because they have either weird passives that gives them extra turns when it's not a good idea to get that, or they get extra turn meter somehow, so because of it they're not gonna be on the list. But moving over to talking about the champions we're gonna rank in here today, guys, I do want to offer you a few options for the epic champions as well. Now I know a lot of you guys are already familiar with these champions, but then a lot of you guys are not familiar, so I'm just trying to kind of help everybody out and sort out your clan boss team, get that damage done, get the max loot from the game, have fun and enjoy it overall, because that's all that matters in the game. But if you do enjoy the video, guys, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, that actually means a lot. Probably I don't have to tell you how much it means to have defense and weaken on the clan boss. Having weaken is pretty good, missing it you can survive with it, but without defense down, honestly I feel like you're missing so much damage overall. So I'm trying to put in some champions that can work with defense down, with weaken, to try to bring all together, or bring some poisons on the table as well. With some of these champions, of course, will be pretty good to use a toxic set on a different champion, like a Painkeeper or a Maneater, or depending what other champions you're running in your team. Of course, some of these champions can go on the side next to other champions that you're using. If you have a different team rather than a 2-to-1 ratio that only has one slot for a DPSer, you can pair some of these together to create the ultimate team and then deal a ton of damage. So we're gonna start in by ranking the epics first and then the legendaries. I wanted to bring a few epic options as well for you guys, for whoever doesn't have all the top legendary champions in the game, just so you can work with something as well, right? So we're gonna start here with the barbarians. We're gonna start first with Aina, right? So she's pretty badass. She's magic affinity, attack champion. Now the only off with her is the long cooldowns of her skills, but because you'll be using relentless, if you don't have relentless good enough to use on your champions, of course you can use a reflex set, for example. Now on other champions you can bring toxic sets to build up the damage, right? Because if you're missing a poisoner in that team, you kind of want to use a toxic set. So for a lot of champions you can do that. That's how you actually one kit with Balanor, you one kit with champions that don't actually land poisons as well. You use toxic sets to build up some extra damage. So going over her kit, guys, we have her A1, attacks one enemy 2 times, has a 20% chance, 15% chance, sorry, fully booked, of granting an extra turn. So she can get an extra turn from there. Then we have the A2 on 5 turn cooldown. That's my only oof with her. Attacks one enemy, has a 100% chance to place a weaken for 3 turns. Now because it's for 3 turns, it's not as bad, but then it's still on a 5 turn cooldown, so that relentless needs to proc. We have the A3 Overmaster, again on a 5 turn cooldown, attacks one enemy, 100% chance to place a defense down for 3 turns. So overall, is not a bad champion. You have weaken and defense down from 2 different skills. You time them right. You have them on the boss with all the extra turns, the 2-to-1 ratio. She's actually gonna be able to help your team to 1 key as long as you are able to use a toxic set on a different champion. And of course, your gear needs to be pretty decent. Now, her aura, nothing to do with the clan boss. Total stats, base stats, they're not too bad, honestly. She has decent attack, decent speed, so it's not extremely hard for you to get her up to like 220, 219 speed to be able to throw her in the team. But that's the first champion on the list, guys. So if you don't have a Draco, you don't have a Venus, you don't have a Fane, you don't have any of the OP champions, I'm gonna show you some other champions that you can use in there. So we have Aina right here. Then the next one we can use in here is Suawei Fistborn. So she's a Void Epic Attack champion as well. Pretty much similar. It's like her twin sister from before. So what we have here, guys, she has lower attack, lower speed, HP, defense doesn't really matter. We're talking about Unkillable, so we don't really care that much about it. So I'm not 100% sure how good are her multipliers, honestly, because I haven't tried her personally. I'm literally looking overall for the kits. So on the A1, attacks one enemy, has a 50% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense debuff for 2 turns. Places increased attack and increased crit damage buff on this champion for 2 turns if the attack kills an enemy, so that's not gonna happen. But we do have a 50% chance to land defense down on the A1. Then on the A2, attacks one enemy, attacks all enemies with a second hit if this attack is critical. This hit deals 80% of the damage inflicted from the first hit. This attack will always be a normal hit. So it's not going to be an extra crit, but it's a bit of extra damage in there. And on the A3, on 4th turn cooldown fully booked, attacks one enemy before attacking, has a 100% chance of landing a weakened debuff for 2 turns. So in theory, she is better than Aina. Now, how I said, I haven't tested her multipliers. I'm not 100% sure what sort of damage she can bump. But having defense down on the A1, having this on a 4th turn cooldown, but for 2 turns, it kind of makes it equal with Aina's, because that's on a 5 turn cooldown for 3 turns. So more or less it's kind of the same situation, but extra turns. The main idea is that we have defense down on the A1, void affinity as well, so you can actually use her on every single affinity with the team you're running. So that was our number 2 here, guys. The next one that we're going to talk about, again from the same faction. Seems like this faction has them all, right? So is Farakin the Fat. Amazing champion. Personally, I one-keyed the Ultra Nightmare in a Barrier comp with him. Great support, poison, defense down, ally attack. He literally has everything in one kit. He's a very, very powerful champion. So I just saw he has 1,200 reviews already. He's not that old, but damn, people love him. So his A1 attacks one enemy, has a 50% chance of placing a defense down for 2 turns. Pretty similar with Suawei. Then we have the A2, Brand of Shame attacks one enemy, has a 100% chance of placing a HP burn debuff and 2 5% poison debuffs for 2 turns. Then we have the A3, places a 30% increased crit rate buff and a 30% increased crit damage on all allies except this champion for 3 turns. Then all allies except this champion will attack one target enemy. So that's on a 4 turn cooldown. Like, this champion, he is doing so much. Honestly, you got him, 6-star him, take him out of your vault and take him in for a spin. Have a lot of fun with him. Great in clan boss, great in faction wars. You can use him for the blender comps in arena to farm your medals faster. He's just simply an amazing champion. Now, the looks are not as impressive, of course, but you know what they say about guys like this. They seem more confident than the ones with 6 packs. So let's take him in. Farakin the Fat, honestly, I love the champion. I am using him as well. Awesome, awesome champion. Mastery-wise, you can run Sniper on these sort of champions that they don't have a 100% chance to land the debuffs. Run Master Hexer to increase the duration of the debuffs as well. So HP burn, poisons. He's gonna be just amazing. Especially if you are able to bring a Toxic set on a different champion as well. Easy 80 million damage with him on a Barrier comp with decent gear. So that was our number 3. Number 4, guys. I made a video on her. 1k Ultra Nightmare without a problem. A walk in the park is Fade, the Ratatouille. Now, she has insane base stats as well. When we're talking about attack, she has a super high attack. She can deal a ton of damage as well. Looking at her A1, guys, attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 50% chance of stealing. Meter, it doesn't really matter for clan boss that. But then we have the A2. On 3 turn cooldown fully booked, attacks one enemy, has a 100% chance of placing 2 5% poison debuffs and a 50% decreased attack debuff for 2 turns. So we basically only care about poisons on here. Then the A3 on a 4 turn cooldown attacks one enemy 3 times. The first hit has a 75% chance fully booked, a 100% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense for 3 turns. And the second hit, a 25% weakened debuff for 3 turns as well. And she gets some heal as well, so she actually has a chance to counter attack. But up to if you want to run support, you want to run defense masteries on her. She's an extremely powerful champion as well, honestly. super great epic. She's much better than a lot of legendaries when we're talking about clan boss champions. Same with Farakin the Fat. These two champions, epics, they're actually legendary champions in disguise. Now, moving over to the next champion. He's kind of defense down, raw damage. A lot of people hated him, a lot of people loved him, but is no one else than Rotos, right? So him on a relentless set with the A1, the defense down, the huge damage he can actually deal from his skills, is a pretty good contender, probably to almost 1 key it or getting into the 2 keys, right? So I'm kind of throwing you some good options from the legendaries as well. We have the A1, attacks 1 enemy, has a 75% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense for 2 turns. How I said, having decreased defense is super important. If you decide to go with poisoners like Xavier, like Nitril, is gonna be a 2 key, but not on the high end, right? So it will be a 2 key, 3 keys depending by the gear you're having. 25% chance to grant an extra turn from here. Then the A3 attacks 1 enemy, decreases the enemy max HP plus another wall of text, which doesn't really matter on clan boss. All it matters from here is that he deals a ton of damage with this skill as well. And we have the A3, ignores tons of defense, deals tons of damage. So in terms of raw damage, Rotos is absolutely amazing for clan boss. We have his passive as well that grants him a turn when his HP is being cracked in half basically. So overall is an extremely powerful champion. 1.5k base attack, 90 speed, a bit harder to get the right speed on him, but he's a very strong champion for this particular sort of teams. Then the next one we have on the list, guys, is accessible to all the player base, of course, not from day one unless you're getting lucky and pulling him, but we can fuse this champion. So we're gonna talk about Rezi now. He deals a ton of damage, like he hits super hard. Giant Slayer on the A1, weakened defense down. He's just absolutely a beast of a champion. Again, his base speed is not the best, but let's have a look at the stats. So he's a defense-based champion rather than attack, so you would kind of want to build him with defense. We do get defense up in those teams from Seeker, for example, time to time, so that can boost his damage as well rather than just having increased attack. Attacks 1 enemy 3 times, has a 20% chance of removing 1 random buff from the target. The A2, on 3-turn cooldown fully booked, attacks 1 enemy, has a 100% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense and a 25% weakened debuff for 2 turns. And the A3 attacks all enemies, decreases turn meter, that doesn't matter on clan boss. We have pretty good base defense, 1.3k defense, so you can give him crit damage gloves, defense chest piece, speed boots, accuracy banner, crit damage amulet, a defense ring, drop a lot of defense on him and he'll be dealing a huge damage. Of course, he requires to have another champion next to him on a toxic set. You're not going to have any poison, so if you're on a 1 key, you will probably need good gear with him and you need to have a toxic set on at least 1 champion. If not, probably you won't be able to 1 key and it's just going to take you onto the 2 key territory with him. Then the next one on the list, guys, is actually a new champion that we got released. Gintoro. I played with him around. He's pretty good. On Relentless, he has potential to do a lot of crazy stuff. Once they fix the AI a bit on him to make him use his A2 as well, it's gonna make him even better on the clan boss. They gotta tweak a bit all the way his skills are working in terms of turns and things. But rather than that, beast of a champion, good base speed, 102, 1.5k attack almost. So again, I'm not gonna go HP and defense, guys, because honestly that's not really something that matters so much for immortal teams, unkillable teams. But attack, he's gonna deal a ton of attack. So all these attack champions, guys, they will get a huge boost because of Seeker increasing their attack up, or depending by what other sort of comp you're using. If it's not the bad eater, of course, this they can go on any other single unkillable team next to poisoners, next to debuffers. Up to you what sort of other champions you're gonna use. Krayla, for example, with ally attack. She's a beast of a champion. She will definitely still number 12 on my list here, because we're only gonna review 10 champions, but number 12 is gonna be Krayla. 11 is gonna be Martyr, just because she has defense down and counter attack. But honestly, Krelash is amazing with that attack up, crit damage, ally attack, and she deals ton of damage. So you can pair a lot of these champions together, for example. So Gintoro, A1 attacks one enemy, grants an extra turn if this attack kills an enemy. Unfortunately, that's not gonna happen on the clan boss. A2 on 3-turn cooldown, fully booked. Attacks one enemy, steals 100% of the target's turn meter. Again, that's not gonna work against the clan boss, but decreases the cooldown of Ogni's Rage by 1 turn if the target is immune to turn meter reduction effect. So this kind of was designed for clan boss because the clan boss is immune to this. So he'll decrease the cooldown of this skill by another turn. So this skill right here can deal up to 2 million damage in a go if you have good gear on him. So this is on a 3-turn cooldown, fully booked. Attacks one enemy, places a 60% decreased defense and a 25% weaken debuff for 2 turns. Will attack 5 times. So what that means, he will use this skill 5 times instead of 1 on every 4th use of this skill against the same target in 1 round. So put him in Relentless, fix this skill. He's gonna get this probably on a 2-turn cooldown, and he'll be using this on and on and on and on and on, and that will make him deal tons and tons of damage. We have a pretty good aura from him as well, increases ally attack in all battles by 29%. You definitely want to use his aura as well. So overall, he can have a huge potential in the territory of one king with a champion that has a toxic set next to him as well. So that's Gintoro right here, guys. Now, the next champion we have on the list is one champion that I still feel like he needs a buff because he's just not as loved, honestly. And the reason for it, why he's not as loved, is because he's a Void legendary. He's decent for clan boss, not god tier, decent for clan boss, decent debuffer. So the whole thing that is with him, he has a pretty good aura, so that's the main thing. Increases ally crit rate in all battles by 24%. So that instant allows you to give less crit rate to the rest of your champions. He has pretty good base stats, 105 speed, 1.5k attack. So again, you can build him pretty good starting from there. But we have on the A1, attacks one enemy, places a 30% increased crit rate buff on all allies for 1 turn if this attack is critical. Give him full crit rate whenever he's gonna use this. He's gonna buff the crit rate by 30% more on the rest of the champions. So you can actually build your champions with a, let's just say, 50% crit rate almost, because you're gonna have full crit rate just from him, right? So you will be having full crit rate with 50% crit rate on them already. So you don't need so much requirement on crit rate. It's easier to get the speeds, easier to get more attack, easier to get more crit damage, overall to pump more damage with the team. A2 on 3-turn cooldown, fully booked, places a 60% decreased defense and a 25% weaken debuff for 2 turns on a target enemy, then attacks them. Places perfect veil on him again, that doesn't matter for clan boss. And we have the A3, attacks one enemy, will attack the enemy with the lowest HP with any surplus damage if this attack kills an enemy. So we don't have that on clan boss, that's on a 3-turn cooldown. And this right here, the A4, is tactical partner. You need to have Xavier on the same skill with him. So honestly, what matters are these 2 skills on him plus the aura, right? So that allows you to build your champions more on a budget term, to say like this. Balanor, but not a bad option at all if you have him. Actually, it might be probably the top 4 option in the whole entire game for this sort of teams. Then the next one we have on the list is still a champion that I don't have. I made a takeover the other day. I kind of got a bit disappointed with the damage she's dealing compared to the rest of the champions. But that one is Venus, guys. Now, how I don't have her, I'm kind of like, I'm pretty sure you can 1-kill with her as long as you have solid gear. And a toxic set probably on another champion, because she is not landing as many poisons. Now, on a 2-to-1 ratio, I feel like she still doesn't deliver enough debuffs, enough poisons to fill up the bar there. But Venus, insane base speed, 112 speed. She's one of the fastest champions in the game. Attack wise is pretty low because she's support, so that might explain why she doesn't hit as hard. But we do start with 20 accuracy on her. The aura is not great for what we need. A1, we have attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 50% chance of placing a 5% poison debuff for 2 turns. Then we have the A2 on 3-turn cooldown, fully booked. Attacks all enemies, has a 100% chance of placing a decreased defense and 25% weaken debuff for 2 turns. Of course, she's a Void champion as well, no weak affinities, which is great. Then the A3 attacks all enemies, has a 75% chance of placing a HP burn debuff for 2 turns, and that's on a 4-turn cooldown, fully booked, guys. So that's Venus right here. Again, she's in top 4 for the best best champions for this sort of comms, Bariters, Unkillable team. So if you got one, you know what to do with her. I don't need to tell you, probably you're already using it. I'm just kind of trying to bring you more options to the table for a lot of newbie guys, mid-game guys that they don't know the game so good, they're not as familiar as most of you guys in here. So just trying to help some other guys out as well. Now, it's no secret, I left it for the last one because he's the #1 champion for Unkillable teams. When we're talking about debuffs, damage, like, is no competitor for Draco. So why is Draco so good though? Like, he can deal tons and tons of damage. Magic affinity, crazy good base stats as well, 1.5k attack and 98 speed. Attack based champion. Now he deals so much damage. Like, I had my Draco hitting for 350k hits on the A1 consistent without the War Master proc. With the War Master proc, that brings him up to like 420k, right? That's a huge amount of damage to deal on the clan boss on a single hit with the A1. That was on pretty good gear as well. So the A1 attacks one enemy, damage increases by 10% for each debuff on the target, will attack one random enemy with any surplus damage. That again is not the case for the clan boss. So we don't care about the surplus damage, we can stop at that part. All we care is damage increases by 10 for each debuff on the target. The more debuffs on the target, the harder we're gonna hit. And trust me, when you run Draco on a 2-to-1 ratio, that bar on the clan boss is gonna be fully maxed every single time. Then we have the A2, Poison Jaw, on a 3-turn cooldown, fully booked, attacks 4 times at random. Each hit places a 5% poison debuff for 3 turns. Tons and tons and tons of poisons. The #1 poisoner in the entire game, ladies and gentlemen, no secret on that. And the A3 places a 25% weaken debuff and a 60% decreased defense debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. And that's on a 3-turn cooldown, fully booked. He needs 2, 6, 10 books in total, the best investment you will ever make. Now, I haven't checked the books on every single champion, guys, but you probably saw them by reading the skills. A few of them need a higher amount of books. Some of them are pretty reasonable when we're talking about books. Now, do let me know if by any chance I missed any of the important champions. We do have Anax as well from the Undead. The problem with him is he has a weird passive giving him extra turns and things like that, so he's not as easy to set up in every team. That's why he's not on the list. But if I missed anyone else rather than him, guys, do let me know in the comments down below. I do want to make sure we named all the champions that matter for this sort of teams. Let me know in the comments down below which one of these champions are you using, which one is your favorite, are you gonna use any of them in the future because you don't have any of the top ones. Appreciate you all guys watching. If you did enjoy the video, don't forget to thumbs up, subscribe for more content, turn on notifications to see when we upload next, and I'll see you all soon on another video. Till then, peace out.